Hey artists, welcome to another tutorial. Today we are going to be learning how to paint this majestic great blue heron in this nice sort of green, reedy, swampy, marshy background. These are one of my favorite birds of all time. It's always a good day when I get to paint a heron. In this tutorial, I'm going to be painting with oil paint, but you can definitely get the same effect with acrylics. I highly recommend using a slow drying medium with your acrylic to extend that drying time. It's just going to make your entire painting process so much easier. You can also find the list of colors that I used here on the screen. If you're craving more help with painting a realistic wildlife easily, then you will love the Wildlife Painting Academy. Each month, new masterclasses are added, complete with my voice walking you through every moment, paint mixing recipes, reference photos, and so much more. You can check it out in the link in the description of this video. So I'm starting off this painting by mapping out where my darkest parts are going to go. So I'm starting with the bird first, and then I'll move to the background. Just working with a large filbert brush and some ivory black to just basically map out where those darkest parts are going to go. Now for the background, I'm doing the same thing. Instead of working with ivory black, I'm actually going to be working with burnt umber here. I wanted it to be a little lighter than the contrast levels on the bird. So basically, I'm just going in here and putting in the darkest parts of my background. Then I'm going to work some green on top of it to really start to build up that marshy scene. Now onto the heron. I mixed up a medium tone gray here, so this is just basically ivory black and titanium white, and using that same large filbert brush, I'm going to start to block in the rest of my bird here. So I use such a big brush so that I can cover bigger areas more quickly, but also it prevents me from jumping into detail too quickly. I'm going to be working from darkest to lightest here. So I'm going to continue on. I added more titanium white to my brush here and going with a lighter color. I'm going to continue working, filling in the rest of my heron. Adding even more white to my paint, getting even brighter. For my beak here, I'm using a base of yellow ochre, and then I'm going to build some other tones on top. So now that the underpainting of my heron is pretty established, I'm going to go back into my background. So here I'm using sap green. It's a beautiful, lively, vibrant color. And I'm going to start to kind of fill that into the areas that I left blank in the background. Now I'm going back in with more burnt umber here, and I'm going to strengthen those dark areas that I made. They got a little washed away when I was applying my sap green, so now's the time to go and strengthen. So I wanted my heron to be in sort of a marshy scene with lots of like bulrushes and different grasses. So now that I've got my background kind of established, I'm going in with sap green mixed with some titanium white, and I'm using those long brush strokes to basically paint in those reeds. I'm adding a bit more white. I'm just going to put in a few strategic strokes here to show that there's some light in the background. And now I'm giving everything a nice blend just to make sure that the background looks nice and soft and blurred, so the focus is really going to go to our heron. Alright, back to our heron. I'm still working with a really large filbert brush here, and I'm going to start to build up some detail. I'm going in with ivory black here, and yeah, just kind of using the knife side of my filbert brush here to start to build up some of that feather texture. So I'm going in with more burnt umber here just to add a little bit more contrast to our background. I grabbed a slightly smaller filbert brush, and now I'm going to start to build up some really nice texture and detail in those feathers. Next up, I'm going to mix a lightish gray, and I've already established a lot of my details in the shadow areas, so using a lot of black, but now I'm going to start to do it with a medium tone gray. So this is a lot of ivory blackness mixed with titanium white, and I'm going to start to build up my detail in my highlights. So whenever I finish one layer, I add more titanium white to my paint, and I start to build up that next layer of highlights. So always working from darkest to lightest. Sometimes I hip hop between the different shades, but as a general rule, I'm usually working from darkest to lightest. It's time to add some detail to our beak and our eyes. For this point here, I moved to a smaller round brush that comes to a nice fine point, just so I can make sure I'm getting all that nice detail that I want. All right, so now's the fun part. I put my painting aside for a few days so it can completely dry, and now I'm gonna do some glazing. Now, although this Great Blue Heron is mostly gray feathers, gray in nature actually has a lot of color in it. And so that's why I'm gonna go in with some glazes here. I'm gonna add kind of a brown tone to some of the feathers. I'm also gonna be, increasing the saturation of the beak and the eye, adding some fun different tones here and there. And I'm gonna be brightening the background with glazes. So now into my wet glaze layer, I'm gonna work my final pass of details and highlights into here. I like to work it into my wet glaze layer so it's a little more diffuse, a little more natural looking, but I'm just going in with a small round brush here and taking my time to go and add all those final details. And we're done! I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial for how to paint a realistic great blue heron in this nice, natural, marshy sort of scene. I love herons. They are one of my favorite birds, my favorite creatures of all time. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and hopefully you can learn what you did here to create a beautiful painting of your own. Now, the full real-time tutorial with my voice walking you through every moment can be found inside the Wildlife Painting Academy. There's a link in the description of this video. This Great Blue Heron painting was the new 3-hour masterclass for the month of June 2021. So if you want to learn how to paint this heron, go check that out. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. Please hit that big, beautiful subscribe button if you want to keep learning how to paint realistic wildlife easily. If there are any animals that you want to learn how to paint, leave me a comment and I will add it to the list. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.